Good morning, everybody. It's your girl, Miracle Sims, and you are listening to God, Sex, and Love. Your daily dose of inspiration, the juice. It is September the 7th, 2021, and today the topic is, what moral compass? Y'all, that title actually just came to me a little bit before I was getting ready to go live. Man, I ended up studying or looking up a lot of different stuff this morning. I didn't necessarily know where it was going to go, but I guess it's starting to make sense enough for me to be able to go live this morning. So hey, to God be the glory for that. But real quick, just to update, yesterday, not too much. Spent a lot of QT with hubby yesterday, which was nice. I did not do, I think I told y'all I was going to be recording an episode of GSL, but I decided to reschedule because hubby was out for Labor Day. And, I think that plus me just being like, feeling lazy or whatever it was, I just was like, let's just have this day and I'll just schedule it on another day when he's at work. So, my guests understood and whatnot, and so we pushed that back, but yeah, that gave me time to, spend with my husband. So, that's what happened yesterday. For the most part, that plus getting some rest and yeah, just QT. But anywho, so this morning, got up, at the sound of my alarm, all that good stuff. I did my prayer meditation and everything like that. But like I said, I've taken so much information since I woke up that I don't necessarily remember everything to share in regards to that. But I will get into this though. So what led me to the topic today? Well, a lot of things, obviously all of the different subjects that I looked up and thought about. I want to say basically after my prayer meditation, I ended up thinking about, what was that? I can't remember the word right now. Something. Oh well. See? But anyway, I can't remember the exact word that I thought about after my prayer meditation. But eventually I ended up thinking about the word sin. And I just was like, this little three-letter word has such a big impact on us. Although many don't even acknowledge it. But for those that do, most won't, I guess, believe that maybe that it doesn't exist or that it's not something that they do, which unfortunately for them, the Bible addresses directly. People that think like that, and it's just very interesting to observe. Like the things that people say and do. Now I'll give it to them. Maybe people get a little bit more bold online, right? Like when you're typing something, perhaps sometimes people get a little bit more bold, because then sometimes you can hide behind the keyboard, as they say, or sometimes you can even hide your image or whatever. Like, some people are bold enough to put their photo up there and say whatever they want to say about whatever it is. And others just hide behind those hidden profiles and all that type of stuff. And so, people make some really, really bold and interesting statements. And I think I've observed some of that you could observe that every day. But, maybe I observed something yesterday or whatever. And I guess it made me kind of think about, by the time this topic came to me, it started to make a little bit more sense of what perhaps was the inspiration. It's like, when I look around, I'm like, man, what is people's moral compass? Like, do they have one? It don't seem like it. And yeah, because basically thinking about the word sin led me to looking up morality and just all these different things, and that's what led me to the topic for today. But let's get into some of these definitions. So I did look up morality first, right? And so it says principles concerning the distinction between right and wrong, of good and bad behavior. So, I had to write that definition down because it was one of the things that stood out to me. I feel like the more different topics I looked up, I would find one verse that stood out here, one verse that stood out there, and whatnot. And like I said, it didn't necessarily all come together until this idea of what moral compass came into my mind. And so right before I was getting ready to go live, I decided to look up the definition of moral compass as well. And that says, used in reference to a person's ability to judge what is right and wrong and act accordingly. Whew, y'all. Honestly, I question everybody's ability to do that these days. Goodness gracious. When you hear the things that people say and see the things people do, you be like, man, Now, I'm not perfect by any means. I am human too. Now, I'm not trying to sit here and, just point fingers at people or nothing, but goodness gracious, what moral compass do we have, if any? I stand by the idea that I believe that everybody deep within know right or wrong. Now, whether they act on it, right, or whether they, live by it and whatnot, that's a whole nother thing. But do you know deep inside whether something is right or wrong? I feel like we do. I say that based on Bible. Saying that, he's written his word on our hearts and things like that. So, that alone already kind of gives us the idea that, deep within, people know right from wrong. They know good from bad. They know good and evil and all these different things. But, man, like I said, when you see what people say and do, that's totally different. It's totally different from anything moral. And it's well, what are you basing... Listen, man, like I said, I came across so many verses today, even the verse, did I write it down? Let me see. No, I don't think I wrote it down, because I feel like I read it recently, so that's one reason I didn't write it down, but, I think I might have put it in the Go Deeper section, but, let me see. Let me just give you guys the verses that I did, right? So, the first verse that I ended up, what inspired me to go deeper this morning was 1 John 5:17. It says, all wrongdoing is sin, but there is sin that does not lead to death. So, I wanted to go deeper, and so I ended up reading the entire 1 John and 5. And not only did I read it, I ended up letting the app read it to me as well. It's not that I necessarily didn't understand it, but it was something about it just wanted me to hear it. I just needed to hear it again, in someone else's voice. And so I decided to listen to it as well, and that did give me another, help me get a better understanding. But again, like I said, I've taken so much information since I did that I don't even remember fully everything that was in it. But if you need to go deeper about that as well. But one reason I wanted to go deeper with that particular verse is because I'm familiar with James 1:15, and it says, "Then desire, when it has conceived, gives birth to sin, and sin, when it is fully grown, brings forth death." So, I have heard repeatedly that, sin leads to death, right? And so to come across that verse this morning that said that there is some sin that don't lead to death, I understood that. Because, I think that's what I think that's where some of these issues come in, right? With certain sins over other sins. And I know that people take issue with whatever sin that they want to live in or whatever the case is. Because I guess they don't see at the end of the day, like how it could lead to death or where death comes in that scenario. But regardless of that, basically that's why I wanted to go deeper with that. And yeah, hopefully you guys check it out as well in the Go Deeper section, because it was good to reflect on. Unfortunately, I just can't remember to tell you back right now. But let's move on. So John 8:34 says, Jesus answered them, truly, truly I say to you, everyone who commits sin is a slave to sin. There's so many verses, y'all. Like I said, there's so many verses I read this morning, and so many verses that deal with this whole thing. I mean, maybe some may question, why is this important, right? Like, why is this even an issue? Like, what does it matter if we sin or whatever the case is? Like, well, I mean, I guess if we get an understanding of sin, then we'll understand where, you know, when it comes to like the main issues that people have, then, you know, I think that will help us to understand, in my humble opinion. But hey, you know, again, I'm just one person, so I mean, I don't know what would help you understand like about issues or the things that we face in life. But I mean, I think, yeah, getting an understanding of sin and getting an understanding of, like, you know, well, I mean, we should live by some type of moral compass, because the more we try not to live by a moral compass, that just gives more freedom for sin to run wild, right? And for things like life not to be valued. People don't value life until you're at the end of it. Apparently, that's what it seems, and that's interesting. that's interesting because anybody that is having this conversation was granted that gift of life. So, and that goes for several things. Yes, it can go for the whole abortion situation, because y'all know that conversation is going, you know, it's viral right now, or whatever the case is, and people got their feelings about it, X, Y, and Z. But and we've talked about that before here on the Juice, and we've talked about it on, you know, GSL. So, and I'm willing to talk about it again. You know, again, we should, I think, have a co-ed discussion about it. So perhaps soon. But regardless of that, you know, what I mean, not even thinking about, okay, people, okay, I think murder, right, or like taking of life. Taking of life is one of those things where it's like people draw that line, right? Most people draw the line at taking a life in regards to, is that good or bad? Like, most people, I believe, feel that taking a life is clearly something that is bad, right? Clearly something that is evil. Most people. Which is why, right, there's so many issues with, you know, if somebody gets murdered, or if something happens, if the police kill somebody, or if it just goes on and on, man, y'all, you know what I mean? Any form of that form of death, I think people, that's one thing that people agree on. I don't know. You would think, because I don't know, because maybe people don't agree on it. So that's what makes the conversation a little bit like interesting to talk about. But really don't know, y'all. I really don't know. Like, I don't know. I mean, I know what the word says, and I know where the word says we're going. But as somebody that's like actively living in this moment, it's like I don't know where we're going from here. Because our morality, moral compass, I mean, I mean, on one hand, I'm concerned for my son. I'm concerned for any child being brought up into this world. But at the same time, I guess, as a believer, and all things working together for good and being according to God's plan and whatnot, obviously my son is made for this time. So, I guess in that aspect, I'm not necessarily worried per se. But again, just living an everyday natural life, I can't sit here and say that, thoughts don't cross my mind of concern. You know what I'm saying? Concern about like where all of this is headed. Like, what is life about to look like? Like, I mean, it's like it's almost foolish to sit here and believe that the horrific things that we've heard over history to happen, it would be kind of foolish to sit here and think like, oh, that can't happen to me. And because of the moral compass or lack thereof of many individuals in the world, it just don't look good. It really don't. And so if we focus only on that, then there's no hope. There's no hope. And I guess this is at the end of the day why we need Jesus, right? This is why God did what he did. This is, and so I think again, when I did read 1 John 5 this morning, it was very interesting because now that it's coming back to my remembrance a little bit, it was talking about like, that basically, it's pretty much like explaining this is God's, this is God's explanation of everything, and that we don't accept it, or there's people that don't accept God's basically God's way to fix these issues. So I hope that you guys check that out and read that or listen to it or whatever the case is. 1 John 5. If you don't do nothing else, then please, by all means, go deeper with 1 John 5 and let that marinate on your heart, souls, and minds this morning. Because if you need some hope or something like that, then get that into your heart and mind. Because again, looking at the world in its current state, looking at the individuals that are all around us, and the lack of morality and all these different things, it just, all right. Anyway, Genesis 4:7 says, "If you do well, will you not be accepted? And if you do not do well, sin is crouching at the door. Its desire is for you, but you must rule over it." Well, like I was talking about the other day, we have much more power than we think we do. So we have the power to rule over sin. We don't have to allow these things to, control our life. We don't have to go with our every impulse. We don't have to live by this immoral code that is everywhere. But I think it's ultimately up to us. It's up to you. Whatever you decide to do, with your life and whatnot. This is an interesting juice this morning, y'all. I ain't gonna lie. Like I said, because I took in just so much information, but I think a lot of the things that you probably need to hear is in the Go Deeper section. They just were rather long, and like I said, I was reading so much that I ended up just writing them down for you guys to read on your own. But yeah, I mean, I hope if nothing else, you guys will, let these things marinate on your hearts, souls, and minds. At the end of the day, it tells us repeatedly in the Word to not lean to our own understanding and all these things. And so, and if we need wisdom, go to God, right? Go to the Word of God. And so, that's the juice, y'all. That is the juice. As strange as it may be. But if I need a confirmation, the Bible verse of today is Galatians 5:1, and it says, "Stand fast, therefore, in the liberty wherewith Christ hath made us free, and be not entangled again with the yoke of bondage." Friends, I hope you all enjoyed this juice this morning. Thank you so much for listening to God, Sex, and Love, your daily dose of inspiration, the juice. I pray you guys can go forth and have a wonderful day, and I look forward to talking to you all tomorrow, if the Lord's will. Bye-bye.
Good morning, good afternoon, or good evening, wherever you are in the world. My name is Mark Vivas, the host of God Breathed, a free dramatized audio Bible in bite-sized podcast chapters. I would like to invite you on a journey with me into the greatest story ever told, from Genesis 1 all the way to Revelation 22. Check the link in this podcast description, and I'll meet you there. Want to read the Bible, but you're doing the dishes? God Breathed Podcast.